Hi, Gene here with my thoughts for today. And today I'm going to be talking about that epidemic that's been plaguing us for years, that started even before COVID. It infects mostly people on the political left, but also some people in the center and even some people on the right. I speak, of course, of Trump derangement syndrome, a psychological malady that seems to be getting worse with every passing year. And actually, it will be interesting to see what happens with Trump derangement syndrome when Trump leaves office. Maybe we're going to have Vance derangement syndrome. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Isn't that exciting? Something to look forward to. But for now, I'm talking about Trump derangement syndrome. Now, when did this start? The obvious answer for, I would assume many of you, most of you, would be when Trump became president of the United States. Others may say it began when it looked like he was that he could become president, that he actually could win. And others may think that it started even earlier when he descended that golden escalator to announce his run for the presidency. But actually, and this is what I think is going to shock a lot of you, it actually started many, many, many years before that.
Hey, Mr. Trump. Hey, how you doing? Will Smith. Hey, listen, you are getting a great house here. And this is quite a deal you're getting for it, too. Look, I'll tell you what. Doing another 50 grand, I'll cut the grass for you every Saturday.
Look, folks, before we go too far, I've got something to tell you.
Excuse me, but I've got something to tell you first. Thank you for ruining my life.
Ashley!
What did you do?
Everybody's always blaming me for everything.
Obviously, what you just saw was a snippet from a situation comedy, a sitcom, as the term is often used. It was many years ago. If you're not familiar with it, it was called The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And actually, that was the show that made Will Smith a star. But we're not talking about Will Smith today. We're talking about Donald Trump. And what you have to, you just saw it. They blame me for everything. They blame me for everything. Now, what you have to understand about comedy is that comedy has to be funny, has to have some basis in truth. I've mentioned in the past that I lived in New York for 40 years. I'm in Tennessee now. So I was living in New York pretty much for Donald Trump's entire career in New York. I moved there maybe a couple of years after he first came on the scene around 1975 when he bought the Commodore Hotel, which is now the Grand Hyatt Hotel, thanks to Donald Trump, which, by the way, began the revitalization of New York, which was going bankrupt at the time. But I moved there in 1977, and then I left New York in 2019, January 2019, which was shortly before Trump left changed his residence to Florida. So I was there for pretty much his entire career, his entire New York career, and I can tell you that there is a basis in truth that he would get blamed for a lot of things. Obviously, that was a little snippet from comedy, a situation comedy, a sitcom, as the term is used. It was from many years ago, as you could tell by looking at Donald Trump. Obviously, that was a little snippet from Obviously, that was a snippet from an old situation comedy, Obviously, that was a little snippet from an old situation comedy. It was called, if you're not familiar with it, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And, well, it was the show that made Will Smith a star. But we're not talking about Will Smith today. We're talking about Donald Trump. And you just heard, they blame me for everything. Now, the essence of comedy, or good comedy, as I'm sure all of you would know, is obviously that was a snippet from an old situation comedy called The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which incidentally is the show that made Will Smith a star. That was the first show in which he actually was a rapper before that, but as an actor, that was the show really that broke Will Smith. But we're talking about Donald Trump today, and you just heard they blame me for everything. Now, the essence of comedy, as I would guess many of you know, is that to be funny, it has to have some basis in truth. Donald Trump, that would not be funny if people actually did not blame Donald Trump for everything. So you see this epidemic, why it's maybe going to be hard to cure, is because it began so long ago. You just saw that, and well, that's it for today. Make of it what you will. We'll see if we can ever eradicate Trump derangement syndrome. It will be interesting, what happens when he leaves office. Will they still be talking about Donald Trump? And that will really be interesting to see if people will still want to, Obama, nobody wants to hear from him anymore. Nobody wants to hear from Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. We can just put that one to bed. But Donald Trump, it will be interesting to see what he will be doing. Well, whether people will still want to hear what he has to say when he's no longer president. I suspect that they will. And I guess I'll just stop there. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have any, you can put them in the comment section below the video. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.